We don't have an exact release date for House of the Dragon as of yet. They're still sticking with the 2022 release, which means it's getting pretty close, despite the whole world closing down, adding delays. Game of Thrones ended in 2019 after its 8-year run on HBO, so a refresher could be a worthwhile watch for some. I got you. House of the Dragon is a prequel that takes place in the same world, taking us back 168 years to experience a major moment in the lore called Dance of the Dragons. But judging by the first trailer, we'll also be getting some flashbacks going even further back in time, so we can learn more about the major players. Unlike Game of Thrones, the show writers for House of the Dragon have no distaste for flashbacks. To be fair, it will be more necessary to fill in context for this series because the main conflict has been brewing for a while. Game of Thrones only really needed the Tower of Joy to complete the story. We'll have to see Princess Rhaenyra growing up as the realm's delight and her uncle/husband becoming the rogue prince. As for things to remember before tuning in when it finally does premiere, we learned in the first episode of Game of Thrones that dragons have been gone from this world for over a century. As far as we know, a complete global extinction. With House of the Dragon taking place in 129 AC, multiple dragons will be in the skies, or housed around King's Landing, 22 of them, some tamed, a few wild. This is House Targaryen ruling in their prime. They had a healthy number of family members, the people's love, and all the power that comes with having multiple dragon riders. Too many family members, with the king having a disproportionate amount of power and influence, causes problems within royalty though. In Game of Thrones spirit, succession issues will be another major theme. This time around, the Starks will be a little more removed from the conflict. But if the writers are tuned in with the book's fanbase, they might just heavily expand on Cregan Stark, Lord of Winterfell during this period. Well, most things are going to have to get expanded upon. The source material that the prequel will draw from isn't written in the form of a novel, just some supplementary world-building books. The most detailed one of the Dance of the Dragons being the short story called The Princess and the Queen, which was just added into the larger Targaryen lore book called Fire and Blood that chronicles each king. The visual setting should look like what we remember watching. Progress moves slowly in this world because of magical events like the Dance of the Dragon holding them back. Some Easter eggs to look out for is the Dragon Pit not being in ruin. This was made for a place to house Targaryen's dragons in King's Landing, as opposed to the more natural layers in their former home island Dragonstone. After building King's Landing, the Targaryens made Dragonstone the seat of the next in line to sit on the Iron Throne. There's also Valyrian steel swords that we've never seen in Game of Thrones. The Targaryens had two in their family, the larger blade, Blackfire, passing to the heir, the smaller one, Dark Sister, going to whoever a king felt worthy. Both are lost by the time of 297 AC, when Game of Thrones begins, for very different reasons. House Balerion exists in this prequel, while for some reason was omitted from Game of Thrones. They have also been the Targaryens' closest allies, and gaining the support of this seafaring family will be vital. You would think it would be House Baratheon, because they are literally a branch family of House Targaryen, but tension has moved them apart over the years. The Valerions build and usually control the royal fleet, with their culture making them so qualified for this role. The Targaryens are fairly new to this continent. The timeline indicator of AC refers to when Aegon the Conqueror united the Seven Kingdoms for the first time ever. AC, Aegon's conquest. The Targaryens' ties to House Balerion run even deeper than just providing ships for Aegon Targaryen during his campaign. Aegon was half Balerion on his mother's side, as well as many of his ancestors and descendants. They both originate from Valyria, so are kind of like the outsiders of Westeros, belonging to a race looked at as superior and almost deity-like for their unique beauty and the Targaryens' magical abilities to control and bond with dragons. Each Targaryen can only bond with one dragon in their lifetime though. Only after a rider dies will a dragon be available to ride again, and dragons have a much longer lifespan than humans. The oldest known Targaryen dragon living up to 200 years old, and that's with it being involved in a bunch of battles. A Targaryen attempting to tame or ride a dragon not bonded to them is just as deadly as a regular commoner trying their luck. Daenerys only ever flew on the back of Drogon, but her relationship with her other two dragons is unique. There's no other character referred to as the parent of one of these beasts. It's a Targaryen tradition to place an egg in the cradle of one of their newborns, in hopes it'll hatch and bond with the purple-eyed baby. But there are a lot of instances of befriending a full-grown dragon of their choosing. I say full-grown, but dragons just continue on growing throughout their life, if they are permitted to fly freely without chains and hunt as they wish. Captivity stunts them slightly. Looking at other magical beasts, it would be very interesting to see if one of the children of the forest somehow find their way into this prequel, because it's more canonically possible than you might think. In the last book, Leaf, the only one of the Children of the Forest that gets any sort of character development, gives us some fun backstory to think about. The first men named us children, the little woman said. The giants called us Wodok Nagran, the squirrel people, because we were small and quick and fond of trees. But we are no squirrels, no children. Our name in the true tongue means those who sing the song of earth. Before your old tongue was ever spoken, we had sung our songs 10,000 years. Mira said, you speak the common tongue now. For him, the Bran boy, I was born in the time of the dragon, and for 200 years I walked on the world of men, to watch and listen and learn. I might be walking still, but my legs were sore and my heart was weary, so I turned my feet for home. 200 years, Mira said. The child smiled. Men, they are the children. So if you're wondering what the time of the dragon is, it's likely referring to when Targaryens were in power.
You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?
They like to call themselves dragons from time to time. The world of men is just referencing the Seven Kingdoms. Humans first pushed the children into living in dense forests before their trees were cut down, and they were driven further and further north to survive. There are some hints dropped about children of the forest living on the Isle of Faces, located in the Riverlands, so close enough for Leaf to sneak some peeks at the dens of the dragons. As old as the Three-Eyed Raven was by the time of Game of Thrones, he will not be here. While everyone believed Aemon Targaryen to be the oldest man still walking around at just over 100, his relative, Brendan Rivers, aka the Three-Eyed Raven, was like 125 years old, being sustained by weirwood roots straight into his body like fantastical life support. And no giants either. News has recently been spreading that HBO spent $30 million on the cancelled Long Night pilot episode that'll never air, which I think was a good decision to scrap after the bad taste left in the viewers' mouths after Season 8. The Long Night would just be a less interesting rehash of Game of Thrones in the form of a prequel, with less source material to build from. House of the Dragon will be very different than the cancelled prequel. No White Walkers here. The lands beyond the wall is so removed from the main conflict. Might not even be scenes in Essos. It'll be hyper-focused around the Crown Lands, Dragonstone and King's Landing to be specific. A house from the Reach that never got much love in Game of Thrones, despite being one of the most powerful families ever in this story, is House Hightower. Some of their family members existed in the Game of Thrones timeline, but were never name-dropped. The mother of Margaery and Loras Tyrell was a Hightower. Jorah Mormont's former wife, who left him, was a Hightower, and the iconic Tower of Joy flashback had Ned Stark and company facing off against Sir Arthur Dayne of the Kingsguard, as well as his Lord Commander, Sir Gerald Hightower. A very important house to remember going into the prequels. Is remember the right word if the name Hightower wasn't even directly mentioned once in Game of Thrones, if I'm remembering correctly. Dorne was not a part of the Seven Kingdoms yet, as of 129 AC. The Martell and all their people's hate for the Targaryens was still burning strong. Hard to let go the damage they did to Dorne, trying to conquer them and failing miserably. I doubt we'll see this in a flashback during the prequel, but the Dornish actually had a minor skirmish with the Rogue Prince, Daemon Targaryen, in 110 AC. The Prince of Dorne at the time of the Dance of the Dragons said he'd sooner sleep with scorpions than get involved with this family matter. I guess the last important thing to mention is the laws of succession within the Seven Kingdoms. The Martell's culture allowed for females to rule. The seat would be inherited by the oldest child, not oldest son like it is everywhere else. This gender argument comes up a few times in the story, and will be another theme ingrained in House of the Dragon. 2022 should be a good time for entertainment. I'll see y'all pretty soon with another video. Maybe a Witcher Season 2 discussion. Thanks for watching, guys.